All right, hello everyone. We have another episode of the Des Moines Metro Market Update here for August 2024 with your favorite real estate team in the whole Des Moines metro area, Team IRG. So my name is Jorge Guadalupe Ibarra Gonzalez, aka Junior, team leader and mentor and partner to all my amazing partners, amazing talent here at Team IRG. And we also have Mr.
My name's Ryan Coy. I'm the director of operations for Team IRG, and we also have the one and only above me.
I am Anthony Simon. I am one of the fabulous agents that work with Team IRG. All right, so we're going to jump into the market stats, pulling from August and earlier this year. And again, the caveat to these is always this is kind of the metro core. We're looking at about a 14.5-mile radius around Des Moines, so Des Moines and all the surrounding suburbs. And this is looking at single family houses only. So with that, we're going to jump right on in. Median sale price. So we're not seeing the slow fall off that we saw last year, taking a little bit more of a nosedive from the peak of, I think it was like 338. So about $13,000 pullback kind of coming into this fall. And again, we're looking a month behind, so we're kind of still seeing more continued price reductions. It's like on our listing side, and even as representing buyers, we're starting to see some more price reductions at the market, and this is
So Anthony,
reflecting that.
What do you have like so year over year? What are we at like percentage wise from last year above?
We are still hovering right around 5%,
5%.
even with the decline now over the next few months. As if things continue, I mean, if we continue along this slope, that's going to kind of potentially cut into that that full increase over the year. But usually things tend to steady out a little bit coming in the winter, and we've kind of got everything's been unusual the last couple of years, but now we've got the Fed cutting rates and interest rates starting to come down while we kind of come into the winter season. So it's going to be an interesting
And an
mix.
election.
And an election year. So yeah, we'll just stir everything into that pot. We're
Yeah.
gonna see what comes out.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, like you said, that it'd be interesting, because that lever looks like it, or that the incline looks like it would cross into the light blue of last year. Yet now with interest rates, or I mean, the Fed rates coming down, there's always a lag with mortgage rates, right? So honestly, when Fed rates went down, mortgage rates actually ticked up a little bit the next day, and yet then they came back down. So, but there's always a little bit of a lag for things to stabilize to see what the market does. Yeah, we did see an influx, a quick influx. Like we see things quickly on our side just because we're doing a lot right with our team and internet leads and clicks, and we track every single piece of data. And so we did see an uptick pretty quickly and got quite a few deals pending over the last week here. Yet I'll be curious to see how it all plays out. Like you said, it's like everything in one big melting pot and seeing where it takes us. Yet again, I always like to say this. I think I say this on every video. We're very, very blessed that we're in Des Moines, Iowa, where the cycles aren't completely peaks and bounds, and so everything kind of more stabilizes and whatnot, no matter what it does.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, these are really smooth lines with
Yeah.
fairly little change compared to some markets that we've seen over the last few years that have had massive spikes and massive fall offs, which is what we absolutely don't want, and which is what makes Des Moines so wonderful. But moving on, days on market. So really, this I think kind of leads to prices coming down. So we're up to almost 2 whole weeks on market is the
Woo!
median days on market for resale homes, and that's again after kind of coming off of a couple of days over the summer. It seems like houses sit forever, especially when you're selling it. When it's 2 weeks versus 3 days. But 2 weeks is still nothing. That's just it is nothing. And but that's increase in days on market is going to kind of pull that price down a little bit as sellers want to just keep things moving along with the sale of the home.
Yeah.
Hey Junior, what was our average days on market in like when we started the team like 2016, 2017?
Yeah, I
Like we
mean,
don't have that data here. Like
no,
it's pretty
yeah,
crazy to see this.
Yeah, I remember, coming into 2014, my first official year as a real estate agent, it like there was tons of inventory, right? There was still kind of that overflow from like the last market shift of the foreclosure crisis. And so it just took like I knew that when I listed a house, like it would still take 3 all the way up to 6 months to actually sell it, right? And just because there was so much inventory, I knew that when my clients would say, "Hey, Junior, I want to go see this house," I'm like, "All right, yeah, we'll schedule it, 2, 3 weeks out. We'll be fine," right? Like, and just no real urgency, right? And so that hasn't been the case, obviously, over the last handful of years, right? And especially coming out of COVID, it obviously you can see there, 2021, 2022, the floor was essentially zero. And honestly, that was extremely hard for consumers and agents to have to drop everything as soon as a house hit and show a house within 5 minutes, knowing that there's going to be 25 offers on the table, right? So,
And
so I,
looking at the house with 5 other couples there and other agents, and
yeah,
yeah, it was not fun.
yeah, and it's just like, you know, you didn't have the opportunity to do a full-blown home inspection, right? If you were
Yeah.
wanting to win that property. So I like that things are stabilizing, and I actually like that days on market are up. It just gives buyers more time to think about one of the biggest investments in their lives, and us as agents to put in all the contingencies, and not lose out on the offer for putting all those contingencies in that's going to protect the buyer, right? And sometimes when you're going up against 25 offers, well, those contingencies aren't typically going to be in your best favor if you really want the house, right? So I like the fact that this market is allowing all of that to happen and just more time to dig into and do due diligence on the overall property and move on forward with the closing of your home, right? So this is all good stuff.
All right, moving into number of houses sold. So we're just kind of sticking on a. It's been very straight, um, by happenstance, but just on a slow decline. Again, we usually see the peak in June. We kind of saw the peak in May this year, and the houses again. The house season in Des Moines is very cyclical, just like our normal weather here, and people tend to want to go out when the weather's nice, and they tend to not want to move when it's snowing and not as nice outside. So we tend to see a slowdown in the fall with school starting and everything, and kind of bottoms out through Christmas season, and then things start picking back up once the weather starts turning. Um, Looking at year-to-date totals, we are sitting. We're about 97%. There's about a 3% difference between this year and last year on total number of houses sold. So that's in the grand scheme of things, that's insanely flat. So we're seeing a very flat year this year to last year.
Yeah, and then just to remind everyone, last year, from what we saw in the stats in national statistics, which reflected pretty closely here to local, was that last year's number of units closed was the lowest number of units closed since like 1996. It was actually less than 2008, and so
That's
we
that's
in the
crazy.
in the masterminds that we've been in, we were informed, that this year would essentially be flat, and that's pretty typical in a shift in the market. And our shift is essentially obviously the interest rate shift in the market and inventory as well, right? Inventory being at some of the lowest we've seen in a long time. And so the fact that we're flat essentially this year is essentially what a lot of the groups and masterminds we've been in say it would be before we start seeing that uptick of more units sold as one, interest rates do what they're doing, which is coming down, and builders and developers pivot to the new market we're in, right? In order, construction cost takes a while to fine tune that, right? And what the materials are costing, and obviously labor numbers as well and stuff. So now I'll be honest, I'm seeing more builders build a little bit smaller. Like you don't see a 3-car garage every single house that's new construction anymore, right? You're now seeing 2-car garages and a little bit smaller footprint in order to get the affordability price point out on the market to hit the masses. And so we're starting to see that more. That's good. We're seeing buy attached homes. We're seeing townhomes. And so a little bit of that is happening in the new construction world too, which will help this out as that evolves going into a new real estate market over the next few years.
Yeah. Looking at so number of houses sold. This is per price point, so per $50,000 price range. We are still sitting. We tend to hover right around the 400,000 under up to 450 under. And currently for August, we were at 450 under was 82% of the market here in Des Moines. So if you aren't in Des Moines and are looking at this as a potential location to move to, I mean, again, this kind of speaks volumes for affordability. The huge majority of our houses sell for under $500,000, which
Yeah,
is insane compared to some places around the country.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, how often do we get someone relocating and they're very surprised for what they can get for the amount of money they're approved for when they're moving here, right? Based on
Yeah.
where they were at. So that's a really cool perspective you just provided there, Anthony, as far as like 82% of everything that happens in our market is below 450, which is probably not normal in a lot of bigger cities.
Yep. All right, new listings. So we are still seeing new listings hit the market. Again, things tend to slow down a little bit as we kind of come into fall. We usually see that huge uptick kind of in the spring and then just slowly tapering off. We're seeing the slowly taper, but it's kind of, again, just tracking right along with where we expect to see it. We're trending. We were, this light blue line is kind of hard to see with everything in here, but light blue line was last year, bright green line is this year, and we started off strong, and now we're kind of going back and forth, but fairly even with last year, shockingly, as everything seems fairly flat.
Yeah. Do you think we'll kind of just follow the same trend line most likely for the rest of the year?
That's what we've been seeing. With Well, so here's my other potential thought is with interest rates starting to come back down, we are starting to see a little bit more of an uptick with listings in general, and seeing inventory recover a little bit. And there have been a ton of people who have been locked in, who have been in houses locked in interest rates that are sub 3%. And when it's 3% and jumping to 7% or 7.5%, it's a huge change. But if we can get, in the mid fives, a 2% jump is way better than a 5% jump. So we're
Yeah.
going to start seeing, I think, a lot more resale homes hit the market where people are finally making the move after maybe holding out for the last few years.
Yeah, I actually have two real life stories of a couple agent partners of ours that have essentially made the decision to now make the move now that rates are sub six, right? And so the gap between what they have and where it's at right now is not as big as it was when it was I mean, how high did we get to eight? Like, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean,
so,
that was 8 with a first time house.
yeah,
So, if you're not a first time buyer, obviously selling a home, then your interest rate was even higher.
yeah. So,
I think people are seeing that horizon too, right? Like, okay, interest rates are going down. Even if it's going to take a couple years to get where we think it's going to go, I can make that decision safely now. I can feel it. I think they feel it. So maybe they don't have the interest rate they have now, but like they can probably maybe refinance in a few years or whatever. They can make that decision.
Right. And I mean, from my personal experience, I've had, a number of people in my sphere who have been sitting on the sidelines and wanting to potentially move because family situations change and stuff like that. But now that rates are starting to come down, they're like, okay, yeah, like you said, we can see the horizon. We the difference now is not so bad. And if it keeps falling, as long as we'll just sit here and wait for the right house to come up. And when it does, now we're for sure ready to pull that trigger. And if rates keep coming down, great, we'll just refinance in 6 months, a year, whatever that looks like, that works out for them. But yeah, that the initial jump is not massive. Now it's just a little bit.
yeah. And there's no timing it like perfectly at all, right? And so there's the perspective of just knowing that, hey, just like with like the stock market, right? Like trying to time the stock market, like, or based on my mentors and my advisors, you never can time the stock market. But if you know that you are systematically investing and over a 10-year period, it is always 8 to 10%. right? If you're
It's
investing in
it's
the,
it's not timing the market, it's time in the market is kind of
yeah.
what people say, right?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, when we follow that philosophy with stocks, and again, why not? It's the same thing in real estate, right? So, like as far as choosing your house, you're never going to time the market perfectly. So as long as you have time in the market, you make a decision. Like if your family's like, I want to move in this location, and you know that you were planning to live there for 10 years, you will always win. At least that's what history has shown, right? If you look at all the indicators of what the average price point was of a home at the beginning of the decade was, and at the end of the decade, it was always higher, right? For when it comes to real estate. And so even like I need to go find this chart that I saw and share it with the team. But even in the beginning of 2000, average price point for a national house, and the end of 2010, the chart that I saw, the price was higher, even though the 2008 market hit, right? Just the beginning of the decade and the end of a decade. And so again, like Ryan said, what did you just say? Say it again.
It's time in the market, not timing the market.
There we go.
So
Boom. Hashtag.
making that, yeah, make the decision now and wait 10 years and you'll have that appreciation. So
Yep.
All right, going into kind of what our inventory numbers look like. So looking at that bright green line, yay, we're
wow.
starting to see it slowly climb up. Still nowhere near where we were, the previous couple of years, kind of before COVID, the before times. But we are starting to slowly recover from what we've seen the last couple of years. Um, and again, with inventory pushing up, and at the moment, kind of buyer demand not pushing up with it, that's where we're going to start seeing days on market take up a little bit. We're starting to see a little bit of a pullback from our peak for pricing this year, and inventory is going to continue to recover, which is a wonderful thing to see happen, because it just gives buyers more options when they're out there looking at homes versus, there's 2 houses for sale kind of in your price range roughly in the area. Now there might be 4. It's great. Double.
Mhm. You have options and you have opportunities to negotiate, right? And negotiate inspection and all of that. And so, no, it's a great time to purchase right now. And again, for all of you that have questions or we can be of value, everything in real estate is hyper local, right? Literally, we could be talking about one house and one average price point, and then literally 2 blocks over, it's a 25% difference up or down, right? And so, if you have any questions whatsoever in regards to what your home is worth, even if you just want a friendly, like a report as to like, I bought this 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, like, where am I at?
2 months ago.
Yeah, 2 months. Like, let us know. No, we don't charge for any of that. We want to just be a consultant. We want to provide you with information so you can make informative decisions, and we're here to provide value and provide you service. So give Anthony a call, myself, reach out to Ryan or I, and we'll be there to provide you val. There's our phone number, and we'll catch you on the next one. Vámonos. Let's go.